So this is a tutorial for like installation of dependencies for SafeMate project. It's a tutorial project. So first of all, we will search VS Code on Google or Bing or whatever you are using. Then go to its website, and then we will most probably click on Windows since we are like installing on Windows, and then click on download. So as you can see, just download its installer. So while it's downloading, let's check out its website. It has documentation for Python, C++, and all of that. It supports all of those languages. If and then you can also search the documentation for VS Code if it doesn't install and has some issues. And then VS Code is really good for like programming and for editing. It also has GitHub Copilot, which we can use for programming and all of that things. Just search VS Code and see its documentation. I don't think you will need documentation. Here's the installer which has opened. Then you click on next, and also create a desktop icon for easy access to the VS Code, and then just install it. I'm not installing this now. And now, then we will install Python. First, search Python 3.11 since that's the most stable Python version currently. Go to its website and then search for the download button. You can also see it has a lot of documentation. Install any one of these, Mac OS or Windows. I will install the VS Code one for this project. Then click on installer IMSIX and then install it. Open. So while this installs, let's check out its documentation. It has a really nice documentation currently. And it's PIP25 is used to install VS Code. You can also use winget commands for installation. There's also beginner's guide and a developer's guide through which we can install things. Check out its documentation. Just read it if you have some issues on all of that. Install Python. Click on that. I'm not installing since I've already installed. Now we are going to install Node.js. Just search Node.js LTS download. LTS means long-term support, which is a stable version. Install when you can install Windows and just offer something else. Just search it up. It also has its documentation. Do you have Linux, Mac OS, and all of that? And X64. Select X64 and Windows and install the Node.js LTS installer. Click on next and then select the terms and click on next and then next. Install all of the necessary tools for VS Code and then install. I'm not installing since I've already installed Node.js. See, Node.js has a lot of documentation. You can check that out. Then you need to install MongoDB server, which is the database. You can use it to store databases, search it on Google, and then go to its website. Install for the Windows itself. As always, most of you are on Windows, but also you can install for Mac OS. Click on its installer and start downloading its installer. MongoDB. You should also install MongoDB Compass since it's a GUI based app for like managing MongoDB, which is good for like any easy to like use. Download its Windows installer. There's a lot of documentation for that too. MongoDB Compass and MongoDB Server. You can read its documentation. As always, download it for Windows. And that's it. All. Let's check out its documentation. There's MongoDB Shell, there's the MongoDB Compass, there's resources for that documentation. See, you can see that how There are a lot of documentation for this. You can install libraries for MongoDB. And this is how a MongoDB database looks like in JSON. While it's installing, it takes a lot of time for some reason. So now install the MongoDB server. Next, do complete installation. That's easy. But I'm not installing most probably because I have set the server itself and the compass to install. Wait for it to install. And then also install the server and finish and all of that. That's it. Now we are going to install Git. Git is for downloading files like the code, that code file that we are going to soon download. There's Git for Windows, Linux, and all of that. For Linux, you can run these commands. I don't think anyone has Linux, but still, let's download it for Windows x64. Since I think most of you have x64 laptops, but we soon have ARM 64 too. Check out its documentation and all of that. There's a book for GitHub too. Yeah, you can see its documentation. There's about Git. Git is a really widely used tool, and you can see Git and all of that. Use Git as you want to. Let's wait for its installation. Look, here's a Git installer. Click on install. Accept all its terms. It will install soon, but I'm not installing since I've already Git installed. Then click on next. Next. Add on desktop if you want an icon for Git bash shell or doesn't matter. Install anything. I'm installing everything, almost everything, and that's it. Install. Next. Next. I'm going to install for VS Code. It's VS Code. Let Git decide everything. But I don't think we should decide to decide everything. Use main, since main is the main branch of a Git repository. A repository is a set of files stored on Git. I'm going to use Git from everywhere. Which you just select the recommended option. That's it. These are for Git connections. Next. Next. Just choose all of these options. Let the Git install. So while Git installing, you should use git clone, then repository link dot git to actually download or clone any Git repository. You can get it on GitHub. You will send the links. Now we are going to get the Gemini API key, or let's say how to get the Gemini API key. First, we will go to Google AI Studio and then get the create API key. You should name the API key. I'm going to name it project Mandal since that's my name and AI. You should create some project if you don't have a project and then name it anything you want to. Doesn't matter. No one checks. I'm going to name it the same thing. Create a project. Wait for it. and then copy the API key and then put it on wherever you want to use it. Let's say this is how the API key looks like. Say it's a bunch of random characters. There's also documentation for Git. You can check it out. Go to the dashboard and see the documentation how to use the API key. This is the command you need to import from Google. You must install it in Python. There's also for JavaScript. That's how we do it in the JavaScript. You can see it. That's how we use the API key. You can also see the model name. You have also REST API if you are using REST API. Go or Java too. You can see the model name Gemini 2.5 Flash. That's the model name. You can use other model names too. Just go to the documentation and check it out. See, this is how it looks like. You have the model names and all of that. This dashboard. Yeah. For the documentation again, this is how the code looks like. Can you see as anything? Most probably we're going to use Python and JavaScript. Check out the documentation. There's a bunch of things for Mac OS and Windows. This is how you use it. You can set it on system as environment variables for the API key to use anywhere, but I don't think you should set it. Just use the API key on a singular place for one thing, since you may hit greatly. First, search Grok, and then we will search Grok API key to actually get the Grok API key. This is the Grok API key. You can see it. This is the API key dashboard and uses and the playground. This is how you actually will use the Grok API key for ourselves. There are a bunch of models, Quen, OpenAI, and all of that. You can see it. Moonshot AI too has its own LLM. You can use this. These are free API keys. You can also see the model and all of that. And now we will move on to the SafeMate project. This is a Safe AI text. You can see it says I'm incredibly frustrated as I am currently now. It rewrites the profanity filled thing into a good words thing. And it also filters it. Like it also gives the reason why it filtered or why it rewrote your text. And why it's like I just wrote it, I would like to die and I hate my life. Okay, just I wrote that. And I rewrote it. And that's it. I hate my life. I just rewrote it. Okay, that's how typo. And they rewrote it and also gave it will also give a reason why it rewrote it. Like I just said about self harm, it read about self harm. And now this is the AI companion. It has three modes: empathy, mindfulness, and motivation. I'm feeling stressed about school, and there are too many, I don't know, classes, exams. And I wrote it and too much pressure, and now it will give me an empathy filled text message on how to actually cope with my pressure. It just so a lot of empathy to me. It's really a good AI. Again, you can also motivate us. I will just ask it to motivate me first. The performance for a stage dance performance, and it will actually give me a nice long text for motivation. Actually, behind it, we have a system prompt for this, which actually sends actually access it to give a response. It means LLM on the Gemini API AI to send us a nice motivated text. Now we have the StoryShield. It has a bunch of themes. You can also write your own theme, and it will give 3 to 5 MCQ questions, scenario-based questions for whatever we are doing. And then here we are. Yes, it will carefully examine the profile and ask us to choose some scenario. You can choose some scenario. Actually, behind this while we are like generating it, there's a long system prompt which actually increases the time it takes to respond to our requests. And the system prompt has a bunch of rules set in, and the main rule is that it sends us a response in form of JSON format, which is filter used by the extractor.js to actually convert into whatever we are seeing on the screen. And as always, the response gives a bunch of MCQs and then scenarios, and at the end we also get a end scenario what based on the that we make, and the moral of the story, because always obviously this story should have a moral. And again we are checking on the stranger danger public transport. Again, choose some scenarios, do anything, choose some scenario. Again, read all of those detailed MCQs, the options, and choose some scenario. And the next question will be based on the previous scenario that you've just chosen for yourself. Of course, at the end, we will get whatever happened at the end of the story, and also a consequence and a moral. As you can read, this is based on a story, consequence, and that's it. We have already seen it. And now we will see how to install it from the GitHub. Go to the GitHub repository. We'll go to the SafeMate repository. As you can see, GitHub has a lot of repositories. This is my GitHub. I'm Duncan Mandal. And we'll go to SafeMate. We have two ways to actually install it. First, we can actually copy it and use the git clone command from the git bash. Open a PowerShell, write git clone, and clear the PowerShell. Git clone, paste that link, and then enter. I'm not going to enter because I don't want to install through this way. I want to install through the download zip way. You can download the zip file and save it somewhere. I don't know. This way. And then extract its contents, the code files, documentations. Extract. And then we can do whatever we want to. As you can see, there's a setup.ps1, the start.ps1, the readme.md5. Yes, I can run the setup.ps1 to actually install all the node dependencies to run the project that I want, because I've already done that. We have an installation file. Just check it out. Check it out, all the documentation files. I'm going to open all the documentation files to check it. It has the installation file has set up for the front end and the back end, client and server sides. Configure the environmental variables and all of that. We have a bunch of files. We can see that a bunch of files in the components, React components. These are React components. You can see that. And the Gemini API, you put your Gemini API here, MongoDB URL here for the connection to the MongoDB base. As you can see, this is how the as well we can see we have used this Gemini API keys, the Gemini model. You also set the Gemini model to use for the AI. The model files. We have the moderation files, diff files, Gemini API client. As you can see, we are using bunch of Gemini API models, Flash 2.5, all of that. As you can see the code, read the code. We have also set up to filter for these specific, bad words. And another code file, read the files, and go to the files, condition file, node.js file, a bunch of files, just like that. the React components, the StoryShield component, the SafeText component to render the whatever we are going to see on the front end on the web browser. README, write a README. Always write clear documentation files for your projects. Always do that. You can see this is how the demonstrated my project. Let's start the project through the start.ps1 bash script, which starts the front end and the back end at once instead of starting terminal, back end and front end separately, which is a cumbersome thing to do. Let's see, this is how the project started, all of the things rendering correctly. The back end and front end can be seen working actually. As you can see, you can also run the setup script to actually set up the node modules to actually run the project. And then we can see this is how server works. It shows health messages and our front end also works. You can see the terminals and the PowerShell terminals. Check out the client is called the front end, the server is called the back end. We have also API documentation. API basically for API endpoints because that's how the front end and the back end communicate with each other through APIs, application interfaces. The code base index, I have written detailed code base index. Read this. This is about information of the files and about all of that, the code logic. Just read it all through once. You will understand how the project works, how to make your own project. Look, this is good. Yes. How to set up the server and the client of the SafeMate and how the prerequisites and the users.md, how to actually use the project, how to actually run it, how to set up the variables. As you can see, server setup, client setup, nothing much more. And then we come on to the MedGen AI project. We have a care chat, and then now important safety notice: do not replace this with human. Replace this humans with this. Human doctor is always good. Now I'm going to write a prompt for how to get vitamin C and D from vegetarian sources, and then it will give a nice big long text prompt, the text prompt and the system prompt are sent together to the Gemini API server, which then sends a response, which is rendered onto the screen, as we will see soon. Obviously, I've also written a bunch of safety messages, and we have three main modes: general mode, lifestyle mode, and mental wellness mode. Check it out, and then us a nice long response. You can read it if you want to. I'm not reading it. But as always, it said that I'm not AI and this is not a medical advice, which is a good thing that AI writes it. Let's let's ask it another question and see how it responds. And as you can see, I'm going to write another prompt for the mental wellness world saying that I'm depressed and all of that and sad. And then it will give us advice, mental health advice, on how to like not be sad and how to not be stressed and handle our stress. Again, the system from that each module has its own system prompt with its own set of rules on how to give the response and how to like actually not act like actual professional but like an AI, as you can see. And then I will ask it to how to leave my gaming habit, and then it will give us a similar lifestyle prompt too, depending upon its system prompt. As you can see, we just got a nice advice from Gemini. Let's clear the conversation. Always see the safety reminder that this is not a replacement for human doctors. And then we come on to the MediGen AI, which takes text-based PDF reports and then extracts the text from it and then summarizes it into key points, keynotes, and whatever it wrote, and gives us some advice and some frequently asked questions. As you can see, the key findings, the next steps, frequently asked questions, pre-diabetic, or whatever those frequently asked questions are. You can then also download a text file for whatever this was generated and then save it. This is a normal text file, nothing much more. I'm just saving it. Let's read it. As you can see, this is how the looks like. Read it. You can also feed it to the. Again, we are going to see the MedGen AI. Let's check it. Paste the text. Again, let's paste this to see how it works. It will give the same response, same thing. Instead of extracting the text, he notes and all of that. Let's take it. And then let's see how to download the files from the GitHub. As always, it's same as the SafeText one, so I'm not going to say a lot. Let's go to the GitHub repositories. MedGen AI. Okay, MedAI. Then we can do the same thing, git clone that link or download a zip file. Let's open up PowerShell to actually show you how to do that. I'm not going to press enter actually because I'm going to install through, like download the code and the documents for this project through, you know, zip file. Let's do it. And then open the folder on VS Code of extracting the files. And again, let's say there's a setup script, you can run it just like the SafeMate to install the node module dependencies. But I'm not going to install it because I've already done that. There's no need for that. You can also see there are a bunch of files. Again, I will not say a lot. There's a bunch of files for that. All documentation files are always document your project well, because if you come after 6 months, you may not be able to remember what you actually did. So you can read the documentation and actually remember what you actually did. How to set up and install this. Again, I've written how to set up the environmental variables and all of that. Again, check for all these files, the README file, all of that. Written detailed documentation you can read for this media and SafeMate. Well enough. Read it. Installation setup, users.md, code base index, everything. And this is how the these are the React components, as you can see. The crisis banner The report uploader, chat window for the React components. Each one renders, and as you can see on the screen, as you can see on the screen too. The summary viewer, the visuals folder, which is the visuals, not important. The code base index with all of the code logic summarized. The node modules have the node modules which we just installed. As you can see, there's not much to actually. All you need to is read the code files, read the documentation files to understand how the video works, like how the project works, and how to actually make it and learn to make it. You can also use the Copilot to summarize all of this, but it's best to actually read the documentation files because this is important. Like the API key, how to you will connect the front end to the back end, how is MedAI project connects it, how the responses are sent from the front end to the back end. That's in JSON format actually. The server folder has a bunch of rate limiter to not rate limit the Gemini API to make prevent it from collapsing. The health check for the backend, and then we have a bunch of other things. Temporary files. Extractor Gemini API client. Extractor actually extracts the, and then as you can see, there's a to do. Actually, if you check if you can implement this to do, all you need to do is use Tesseract OCR to do optical character recognition images to extract the text and then feed it to the MediGen AI project. This is the MD Markdown format system prompts. As you can see, this is how system prompts are written. How this is how the rules are written. As you can see, these are the rules. Check it out. These are really wrong rules for the how to give the response and how whatever response would the LLMs would give. Always write your system prompts in Markdown format since that's what LLMs understand better than actual human language. That's how I'm going to set the rules. That's it.